position, number 10. 10 seconds now away from the start. The lights will turn to green shortly. Mark Scaife, Glenn Seaton looking for a perfect start off the front row. The revs come up now. Off the line, Seaton. But coming up smartly on the inside of him is Thomas Mazzera, who's looking at trying to shuffle out Mark Scaife as they run down to the first turn. Let's make sure they get through the next turn without any incidents. Glenn Seaton got the start he absolutely required here. Yeah, he's out of the turn quick. Scaife in behind him. Mazzera is next, followed by John Bow. Then it's Dick Johnson and Longhurst trying to separate Brock and Larry Perkins.
Well, the lights outfoxed Mark Scaife this time. He got a brilliant start in the first heat, but very conscious of creeping at the start. He was creeping. He had to stop, and then he had to restart. By that time, Glenn Seaton was gone.
Good battle going back to third place too as they swept through opposition. Here they are, the two shell cars, the Sandwich, Thomas Mazzera in between them and the HRT Commodore. Hard under brakes down into the hairpin. Seaton leads them through. Scaife. John Bow, excellent start compared to his first one. He couldn't have done worse than that. Thomas Mazzera, Dick Johnson, Larry Perkins, Peter Brock side by side as they come through the big fast left-hander, heading down toward the stop corner. Look at this. Two old protagonists, Castrol versus Mobil, the battle of the oil companies. Hard under brakes, follow them through. Who's going to win this?
I'd say it'll be Brocky.
Yep.
They come through the chicane to reel off the first lap here with Seaton out to 2 car lengths over Mark Scaife, 5 then back to John Bow, 2 back to Thomas Mazzera, then it's Johnson, Brock, Perkins, Longhurst and Jimmy Richards.
Looking forward to a far more competitive run in this second heat from John Bow, who did actually stall on the start line. Ross Stone, his team manager, mentioned that he might stall an automatic transmission in the car for John next time.
Oh, let's not be too hard on him.
Well, Perkins gets around sideways and Longhurst so quickly up on the inside. Seaton will lead them 2 down. The same gap back to Mark Scaife. John Bow getting away a little from Thomas Mazzera, Dick Johnson and Peter Brock. Next it's Tony Longhurst over Jimmy Richards, Larry Perkins, Alan Jones, Neil Crompton and Paul Morris in the Diet Coke machine.
This right-hander off pit straight is really quite fast. Into the left-hander around this swooper onto the pit straight.
Bit of a drag down here to the right-hander. Mazzera in car number 15, the Telecom MobileNet Commodore, trying to hold Dick Johnson at bay. Peter Brock is only 1 back behind them.
Meanwhile, Wayne Gardner's headed back to pit lane. He had a disastrous first heat. You saw him get involved in that smash-up derby. He's gone back into the pits. Meanwhile, Alan Jones on the charge, as we expected, up to 10th position already. Expect AJ to be right.
Look at this.
On the action.
Under
Speaking
brakes,
of action.
there's Dick under brakes, nailing Mazzera.
It's a good move. Dick got him very cleanly too as Wayne Gardner goes back into the pits, car number 16. Hasn't been really the best of days for Wayne Gardner. Must get better.
Plenty of slipstreaming going on here. Nobody's really getting too far away from anyone.
Here's Jones. He's the boy on the move.
Sure is. Headlights ablaze. Customer aggression we've seen. Larry Perkins, though, is one tough customer to pass we've seen in previous rounds of the Touring Car Championship. Let's see how he fends off Alan Jones. 2 former Formula One pilots. They've reached the heights of motor racing in world terms. Back together again in tin tops. And Tony Longhurst there in the 2. It's interesting to watch the progress of Longhurst here too. Ever since the tyre widths went up on the V8s for the new regulations, he's lost one of those big advantages that he used to have in wearing the big cars down when they used to chew their rubber. But the V8s, particularly with the wings on them, the tyres seem to hang on particularly well through these 2 heats.
They're holding on better, and just that little extra bit of durability is just making his job extra hard. Here we go, down pit straight. Mazzera, Brock.
Jimmy Richards.
Brock having a little look, not the best line into that corner, but Peter's trying to serve notice.
Word from the pits, Wayne Gardner breaking a gear shift. So
he's got to pull hard to break a gear knob. Well, probably more than a gear knob.
Right. Alan Jones, meanwhile, has sneaked under Larry Perkins. Big charge from the 35 number Peter Jackson Ford. He's got Tony Longhurst in his sights.
Yes, this will be a good one. As AJ comes up to work over his former team partner.
Yes, I think it'll only be 1 flick of the lights here.
It'll be straight down the inside. Here he is. And that's exactly where he nails Longhurst under brakes. And Larry will try and sneak through unless Tony can get back on the cue, which he does.
Another extraordinary advantage of the aerodynamics these cars have got is how much it's increased their braking performance. Certainly last year Tony had an enormous advantage under brakes, but these V8s just stop like on a dime. They are phenomenal things.
Stability was one of the parameters that was put into the formula, and it certainly worked out that way.
Jones, I believe, is probably the mover in the field at the moment. He's been able to catch each and every one.
Wearing the big cars down when they used to chew that rubber, but the V8s, particularly with the wings on them, the tyres seem to hang on particularly well through these two heats.
They're holding on better, and just that little extra bit of durability, it's just making his job extra hard. Here we go, down pit straight. Mazzara, Brock.
Jimmy Richards.
Brock having a little look, not the best line into that corner, but Peter's trying to serve notice.
Word from the pits, Wayne Gardner breaking a gear shift. So
he's got to pull hard to break a gear knob. Well, probably more than a gear knob.
Right. Alan Jones, meanwhile, has sneaked under Larry Perkins. Big charge from the 35 number Peter Jackson Ford. He's got Tony Longhurst in his sights.
Yes, this will be a good one. As AJ comes up to work over his former team partner.
Yes, I think it'll only be one flick of the lights here.
It'll be straight down the inside. Here he is. And that's exactly where he nails Longhurst on the brakes, and Larry will try and sneak through unless Tony can get back on the cue, which he does.
Another extraordinary advantage of the aerodynamics these cars have got is how much it's increased their braking performance. Certainly last year Tony had an enormous advantage under brakes, but these V8s just stop like on a dime. Oh, look at this. There's a 1600cc car in the way, but he sneaks under that. That slowed Jimmy Richards down too. Get the power on. Another drag race between the Chevy-powered Commodore and the Ford. Oh, you got to hear Richards right on the rev limiter there.
Yeah, Machine Gun City.
And look at the braking performance of this Peter Jackson car. Phenomenal stuff. You saw he did the same thing to Longhurst the lap before, leaving his braking later and later each time, and the Falcon well in control.
Oh, move over.
They are flying. They're pushing it. Glenn Seaton.
Okay, we'll get a gap on this.
Glenn's out to a couple, I would think.
Yep. Just over 2.5 seconds.
Probably 3 back then to John Bauer, who's in third. There's Glenn Seaton, our race leader, and the Peter Jackson Falcon as we check them out for you on the Shell race score. Seaton leads it over Mark Scaife and the Whitfield Commodore. Third is John Bauer. Fourth is Dick Johnson. Fifth is Thomas Mazzara. We'll be back at Mallala in just a second. We'll follow Alan Jones. Can he knock off a few more? The 2-litre series leader today in this heat. Jonesy down the inside of Brock just to let him know he's serious. He wants to go on with this.
Nothing wrong with Brocky's eyes. He's got one eye on that rearview mirror. He knows he's got a Falcon behind him.
This battle's some 13 seconds behind race leader Glenn Seaton at this stage. There's the man with the radar gun giving us the speed traps times through the fast sweeper there.
As you said, Mark, 227 kilometres an hour through that section for Glenn Seaton, 225 for Mark Scaife.
When you consider the confines of this 2.6 kilometre circuit, that's quite incredible. Jonesy's still on the hammer. I'll be interested to watch Jones' progress from now, because as we said earlier in the telecast, the Brock car is running a harder compound Bridgestone than the Falcon. Now Jones has had some tremendous grip obviously in the opening laps.
Well, we've had Johnson.
Progress from here. Yes, we heard this.
Johnson over there has just spun off. He's lit the tyres up again, so he's dropped back a peg.
Yep.
That's moved JB up one spot.
Well, Brock is holding Jones off nicely here. He hasn't been able just to walk by him like he has traffic prior to getting up on Brocky's bumper bar. A good run here by Brock. He had bad luck in qualifying, lost an engine, didn't get qualified but in 12th spot, but worked his way up well in the first heat to start well in the second heat here now, and is...
and here's Johnson in.
He has been in the wars. Air jack goes in, tyres coming off.
So
very badly flat spotted Dunlops on that Falcon, I would imagine. So Dick's race is run, competitively, that is.
Yes, he will have said, I might as well start fresh with maybe even another compound tyre now.
Sure.